Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 presidential election as of today, 3 years in advance. Now, the reason why I want to take a look at it is because this is the first time we've actually addressed a possibility of Joe Biden being in the negative on election day in 2024. I have made projections before between Donald Trump and Joe Biden in a potential rematch for 2024, in which in almost every case, I have predicted that Joe Biden would defeat Donald Trump. Now, today I question that reality, and I also question the possibility of a better Republican actually defeating Joe Biden, something that would be maybe not too expected maybe a month ago, but today does seem to be a very possible thing that happens across this nation just because of public opinion changing about the president of the United States. So a bit of history about the approval rating for Joe Biden and previous presidents. We do know that President Trump in the 2020 presidential election was disapproved of by around 7 points nationwide. So it's not nearly as bad as it could have been for Donald Trump. He was at one point -17, -18, left office with around -20, but -7 certainly wasn't good. I would have never said that that was something that was winnable, and thus he did not win the election. For Joe Biden, he was up on the opposite end, +7 points nationwide. The favorability rating there was much better for Joe Biden back on election day today. That ends up at -4, so about an 11-point swing relative to November of 2020. And the reason why that is important is because Joe Biden, while sure won the election, didn't exactly win by a very large amount. I'll show you what I mean. Take a look at Wisconsin. This is a state that has 10 electoral votes. Donald Trump lost this state by 0.6%. In 2016, Donald Trump won the state by 0.7%. So it's pretty close in elections, regardless of, political party for at least 2016 and 2020. Still very, very close. Both parties had a very good shot at winning it in 2020. Joe Biden had the upper hand. But he didn't win by an overwhelmingly large margin like the polls may have predicted, or I may have predicted. I was wrong about the mark in Wisconsin to say that it was going to go to Joe Biden by a likely margin, and I've recognized that time and time again. But looking at the margin here, it's still a victory for Joe Biden, but it's 20,000 votes. Not a lot at all. When Joe Biden won the popular vote here by around 7 million votes, 20,000 really is inconsequential. Then you move over to Arizona. Wisconsin has 10, Arizona has 11, we're up at 21, right? Well, Joe Biden won the state of Arizona by 11,000 votes. Out of over 3 million cast, he only won by 11,000 votes. Again, inconsequential amount, Joe Biden seemed to just get lucky. And then over in the state of Georgia, Joe Biden won this state by 12,000 votes actually, if you go into it, 12,000, 13,000 votes across the state, 16 electoral votes, a very populous state. But I do have to point out that, Joe Biden didn't win the state by an overwhelmingly large margin. Again, 12,000 votes out of nearly 5 million cast across the state, not at all a very large amount whatsoever. So if you add up those electoral votes, you have 11 in Arizona, 16 in Georgia, brings you to 27, 37 in total. Well, if you take away 37 and give it to Donald Trump, that would actually put us at a tie. And a tie would mean a Donald Trump presidency and potentially a Vice President Kamala Harris. It would be very interesting to see, but it could have been a reality. So looking at what happened here, and the reason why I say that, even though Democrats did maintain control of the House, the way that it works is an additionally undemocratic system. You have to go into that, but that's not the point of this video. We are talking about the 2024 elections. We are talking about what would actually happen in a potential matchup between the two candidates yet again. And while much probably won't change about our electoral map, there still will be things that we need to worry about. Now, I look at this map and I honestly am getting flashbacks to my 2020 projections. Now, I am looking at this from a standard point of view. Some of these states might be likely. Forgive me if I make a mistake for some of the initial characterizations. I'm just trying to get through to the true swing states of this entire race. And that leaves us with around 230 electoral votes. You have all across the Rust Belt, you have all across the Sun Belt, and then New Hampshire and Maine's 2nd Congressional District. Outside of those regions, you really don't see much else. I wouldn't necessarily say, though, that Iowa would be considered to be Rust Belt to the fullest extent, but it is treated as such and is campaigned in a very similar fashion just because it's a stop away. Nebraska's 2nd District is certainly not considered to be Rust Belt, but does get grouped in with a lot of these states just because it does hold a very similar region and a lot of similar interests across these states and districts. So all around, 230 toss-up electoral votes right now. Where would the Democrats do well? I mean, even though their popularity is low, where would they still hold on to a pretty significant amount of support? And you see that in Colorado. You see it in New Mexico and Virginia. These are 3 states in particular that I really don't think the GOP is going to be able to win in 2024, regardless of who they run and what type of year it's going to be. The margins that were given to Joe Biden over Donald Trump in Virginia, Colorado, and New Mexico, all of these states voted for Joe Biden by over 10 percentage points. Colorado was actually the largest amount. Virginia voted for Hillary Clinton by the second largest amount out of these three. Actually, it was New Mexico first for around an 8-9 point victory, then Virginia, then Colorado. Well, now it's Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia, but all of which are over 10 points. So you can see here that in 2020, Joe Biden won the state of Colorado by 13.5. He won the state of New Mexico by 10.2. And then he won, actually, maybe it had been 11.2. Or no, that's 10.8. I don't know why I said 0.2. And then you have Virginia, in which Joe Biden won by 10.1%. So all around here, what do you know? These states will likely remain in the Democratic column. But also, since Republicans are tending to do better, there's nothing really stopping them from holding on to Texas by a likely margin. You see, what happened in 2020 was the fact that Joe Biden was popular by 7 points and Donald Trump was unpopular. Well, if the approval ratings may not necessarily have flipped, but maybe just more so that Joe Biden is unpopular in addition to whichever type of Republican that is running, or maybe the Republican is popular. Realistically, though, probably not, just because there are more Democrats, there are more left-leaning people in America than there are right-leaning people. That is just a fact based off popular vote elections in the 21st century. Republicans have only won the popular vote one time in 2004, but that's besides the point. Looking at Texas, though, this is a state won by 5.6% in a friendly environment to the Democratic Party. I cannot say that 2024, if it was held today, would be a friendly environment. I think that the energy would be very low. There would not be enough here to say that Texas would even come close to flipping, really. It would stay in the likely column, really, maybe even move backwards, move further away from the Democratic Party, which is widely expected, actually, considering the circumstances that we are in. But you also have to understand that the factor of the incumbency is one of the most important factors for the White House, one of the most important things for our presidency. Presidential incumbents typically do not lose re-election. Donald Trump was the first president to lose re-election since 1992. In addition, he is the first president to leave office with the incoming party entering in with the trifecta, meaning they've won the House, the Senate, and the White House. That was the first time since the 1930s that an outgoing president entered in with a trifecta and left with not a single chamber of the government. Obviously, the Supreme Court is, that's a whole other thing, but I mean the idea of the trifecta. Going in with one, leaving without one. So looking at 2024, I think that what we just understand is that in 2020, Donald Trump, even as the incumbent, just did not win the election because of his unpopularity. And you also have to recognize that there is a wide double standard for politicians across this nation. For a Democrat to be unpopular puts them in a bad position. But for a Republican to be unpopular, not so much. I'll explain what I mean also, just because of the fact that when you see where Donald Trump was on election day, it wasn't popular. When you take a look at where he was actually at an approval rating of 44.6%. Well, that's actually lower than where Joe Biden is today. Joe Biden is at 45%, yet I am much less likely to assume that Biden would win an election under such numbers. And the reason being, it ties back to my initial point that there are more left-leaning voters than there are right-leaning voters, which tells us that looking at that number, looking at that metric, understanding that there are just more people on the left than on the right, more people should be approving of left-wing politicians than right-wing ones, which means the standard there is not equal. The playing field here is that Democrats have that inherent advantage, popular vote speaking, nationwide speaking, which means that they should be taking leads. If Donald Trump was to win the popular vote by 1 percentage point, as Emerson College recently reported, I don't trust that number, to be completely honest with you. I don't think it's true. I do not think it is true. I don't think he would win the popular vote even if he was to win the election. But looking at our map here, if Donald Trump, let's say, for instance, was to win by a mere 1%, a mere 1% for Biden would be a loss. A mere 1% for Donald Trump would be winning over 320 plus electoral votes. Looking at our electoral map here, I think Republicans will do well. I just said that they would win Florida. I think they would also flip back Georgia and Arizona. These are states that could have continued towards the left, but if they fall out of favor, if Donald Trump or Joe Biden, falls out of favor within these states, they will not be inclined to repeat their vote for the only Democrat that they have voted for since the 90s. 92, I think, for Clinton in Georgia, and 96 for Clinton in the state of Arizona. I might have had those two flipped. Normally, in my bedroom, I actually have the elections from 1992 through 2008 up on my wall. I would glance over and I would say, okay, X, Y, and Z. Right now, I'm doing that from memory, so not entirely sure if I messed that up. Again, let's get back to the point of this video. Just looking at 2024, honestly speaking, I can't really justify Biden holding on to Georgia and Arizona if the environment is just as unfriendly as it is today. In addition, I think that the Republican Party would be able to do better in some of these states, but I still think that Democrats would be able to hold on to states such as New Hampshire. I also think that the state of Nevada would reduce down to a tilt margin. I don't think that Biden would be able to win the state by 2.4%, but it still has that leftward advantage that is almost always been there, and historically speaking, We generally know how Nevada is going to go. But we also know that Republicans are going to do well in Ohio and Iowa. We know that so far. In Nebraska's 2nd district, I still think that Biden would be able to hold on to it. Not by a likely margin. He won by, I believe, 7.7%. We can actually check here. No point in just guessing. We have the numbers. Let's head over to the presidential election. You can see here that in Nebraska's 6.6%. It was still a likely margin. He won by around 7 points. This was a monumental swing. 2016, Donald Trump won this district by around 2 points. So looking at the 2nd district, Biden actually did pretty well for a Democrat here. I think there would be room to fall and enough to fall back on. But I think that, the Democratic Party would have trouble winning over states such as Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin again. Don't even get me started on North Carolina, which I would undoubtedly put in the Republican column today. Looking at this map right now, the Democratic Party just doesn't have the advantage that they used to. Minnesota would reduce down to lean. Honestly speaking, if I was to make a characterization right now, I think Biden would maybe have the upper hand in Michigan, but I wouldn't be confident in Wisconsin. I would not be confident in Pennsylvania, and I certainly would not be confident in the 2nd district. Actually, let's take a look at the former margin. I think 10 points in 2020, 7.4%. I wouldn't say go so far as saying safe. I would keep it maybe in the higher end of likely 12, 13 points. But point being, that this is where we stand when you're looking at the 2024 election, Donald Trump or not. And I know that may be weird to think. I know that may be weird to assume, just considering how much Donald Trump has fallen out of favor within the American public. But if you want to actually take a look at the approval rating of Donald Trump nationwide, it's a negative 10.7%. For reference, on Election Day in 2020, if you want to take a look, on Election Day in November 2020, it was unfavorable plus 12. So it seems to be, at least for right now, because Joe Biden is falling out of favor, that Donald Trump isn't necessarily increasing in terms of favor, but isn't decreasing at the way he was before. He skyrocketed following the insurrection. The American public turned on him, plus 23 points nationwide. That is cut in half, effectively. What was a difference of 17, 18 points between Trump's popularity and Biden's popularity has now reduced to a difference of 7 points. What was 17, 18 points is now 7, 8 points. And that's why this election has gotten closer. Do I think Donald Trump would hit it out of the ballpark? No. That's why this map is only 291 to 247. But do I think he would win the election? Do I think another Republican would be able to win the election at this point in time? That answer is yes. The Democratic Party is at a low point. I do think that this is probably one of their lower points. Generally speaking, once things begin to blow over, Joe Biden should remain as a popular president. He's not the same as President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush even, or even President Trump. Joe Biden won the popular vote by a larger margin than Obama did in 2012. And looking at the approval rating of President Obama during the time period of the 2012 election, we can actually take a look here if you want to take a closer look. On Election Day in 2006, November 6th, Barack Obama was approved of, President Obama, I'll call him by his formal title, was approved of by +3 across the nation. That's not a lot. For a Democrat to be +3 was probably better then, though, than it is now, just because the country wasn't more or as democratic then as it is today. You see, because population growth is a thing, because minority influx into certain states is also a thing, in and outside of the country, the approval rating and the number of respondents in these polls and the popular vote should always skew further towards the left year after year after year, just because there are more people that lean towards the left that are getting out to vote and that are answering these surveys. Because when you take a look at this approval rating, +3 for a Democrat there translated to a Democratic victory of 332 electoral votes. Well, guess what +7 brought them? Just 306. The goalpost is being moved because there are more people here, not necessarily in swing states, though. Democrats are seeing an influx of minority voters in Arizona, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, but only won 2 out of those 4 states in 2020. To be fair, though, they only won 0 out of those 4 states in the 2016 presidential election. But all around, just looking at the national environment today, would I be confident if I was on the Biden camp about re-election? Absolutely not. This is probably one of the lower points for the Democratic Party that we will see throughout the entirety of the Biden presidency. Obviously, I expect it to dip a little bit lower than this at some point, but I can't imagine that it would be a replication of what we saw under President Trump in terms of just how much a president can and would be disapproved of, given different options. So that's it. That's the finalized map here. Biden-Harris, 247. Donald Trump or a Republican, 291. Just very interesting to see the state of the race as it is right now. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2024 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.